Welcome to step 16 of this Interview Ninja course. It's based on session 4 of the Corben dialogues, and we're going to talk about talking to camera and early presentation skills so that Corben can get a better idea of how he appears to others, because people see you and they make judgments of you depending upon what they see, what they hear, and how you behave. And it is really important that you have an understanding of how your own persona comes across to other people, because very often it's not actually the way you want to be seen. And there's a great deal you can do so that they see the real you and appreciate those things like your potential. But he hides it by his current behavior. So I'm having him practice various presentations to camera so he starts to appreciate and become aware of the difference about how he's perceived, what's going on in his mind, and the steps he can take so that he can go forward and build his self-confidence. We strongly recommend that you too record yourself talking to camera just as Corben does and at the same stage, so that you too will be able to observe yourself, hear the comments that are made, consider which ones are relevant to yourself, and slowly build up that skill. Very few people have it completely natural, and it is a joy when you know you are communicating well and people are seeing you for what you are. I've asked Corben to do a short introduction for what we do next. I gave him no guidance because I wanted to capture how he is at this early stage of the process of presenting himself. As you watch now, ask yourself, does this person look and sound like somebody who is totally committed to learning the secrets of his inner power? Because he really is committed, but I don't really think it looks much like it at this stage. Ask yourself, what's missing? Why is it that he doesn't seem to be projecting well? What would you suggest he changed? Remember, presence and projection are quite tricky soft skills to develop, and Corben doesn't have them yet, and quite possibly you don't. So don't click away now. If you can possibly hang in there and have the patience to grow and develop your own presence and projection skills. If you do choose to click away at this point, that's okay. Somebody has to drive the buses and serve the beef burgers, and I just wish you the best of luck. If you want to see right now how it should be done, then watch any of the episodes of Self Made Millennial. It's a lady who teaches you how to answer all the tricky questions in interviewing. And she's just built her whole career from being in HR to becoming an entrepreneur, leveraging her very special capability and soft skills in presence and projection. I highly recommend them. People typically make a judgment of you within a few seconds. It's called first impressions. Even within this last few seconds of watching Corben, I expect you've already formed an opinion. That's a natural process. He hasn't spoken yet, so without you realizing it, your judgment is based on things like how he moves, his very lethargic looking walking, and even his breathing. Corben's natural look is very easygoing. He has terrific energy and commitment, which are wonderful and rare qualities, but they don't show. This is not surprising at first, because he does not appreciate his inner strengths, and second, he needs to learn how to show them with skills which are called presence and projection. I hope to guide him towards the self-confidence he seeks simply by helping him to discover how good he is and practicing the soft skills of presence and projection and seeing for himself how he improves. And you can do exactly the same thing if you use the camera on your laptop or any other way of recording yourself, and especially if you can find a friend to do it with so that you both track each other's progress. It is a very happy experience.
It's day 3 of Graham's University of Life, and he gave me some tapes by someone that I don't know the name of, and I listened through them and I made an agenda of things for us to talk about today. We're going to talk about self-esteem, interview techniques, how to prioritize what you organize, and self-identity, good and bad things to think about yourself. I think that should be what we do today. I'm hoping all of this will build my confidence for job interviews, uni interviews, whatever I've got to do. Make it easier for me to do one-on-one confrontations in important situations.
That wasn't too bad. He spoke clearly, but there were danger signs. He finished with words like confrontations and important situations. These show he has some level of anxiety about his capability to perform well. What's great is he is actively doing something about it. You can also make that choice. It's going to take you many hours of work to discover and optimize your full potential. The good news is that you have found us here at the Institute of Practical Learning, and really, from now on, it's about you practicing, because there's not much point in watching more and more and more videos unless you start applying it. It's rather like reading books on how to swim or how to drive or how to ride a bike. No amount of reading those books will give you these practical skills. And this whole process is about behavior and practical skills. It's not about knowledge and methods.
What I want is for Corben, C-O-R-B-E-N, to do an intro for us.
Yes.
Because...
all recorded.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because I want to track changes in the way he does things, or the way you do things, okay?
Yeah.
And that's why I don't give you any kind of prime coaching or anything about how to do an intro. I want to basically see whether what we've been covering in the sessions before is kind of getting into your way of life and your way of being. And the viewer and I can see the changes. So I want to keep it authentic. And we're very privileged in that, we've got the kit, we've got the place to do it. And unlike most learning, we can be one-on-one and interactive and so on and so on. So the brief I'm giving you for the intro is I want you to talk to camera briefly about how you feel about the progress we're making so far. Don't bull it, you know what I mean? Just say, how's it going? Maybe your feelings about the rate of progress or the nature of the progress. And then what your hopes are from this session.
Yeah.
And then sort of maybe something a little bit upbeat about the process and how you feel about what other people might get out of observing the process rather than just you and I. And perhaps your sense of your contribution to that ability that this dialogue might have to help other people, its relevance to people other than you and I.
It's quite a meaty intro.
At the Institute of Practical Learning, we train people to get to be normal, and then to go from normal to good, good to great, and great to excellent. And we do set quite hard assignments. So that was a pretty long list of things I wanted Corben to cover. And part of the assignment is to see just how much of that he can remember and how much he can actually engage with the content. Because the whole idea of this exercise is it's nothing to do with just random list of skills. We're trying to engage with his purpose and see which of those aspects of the assignment he picks up on most readily. Where is his energy? We need to find out what makes him tick, and this is one way to do it.
It's a bit of an ask.
Yeah, I can try. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lot. And I think I'm going to leave you to do that little confessional piece about what the little intro you did before.
Because I turned the camera off and did sit in silence for 4 minutes.
Well, that's up to you. You do that confessional, and then we'll go from there, okay?
All right, so it is session 3 of Graham's...
I'm gone. You're on your own.
Out of the room? Okay.
Yeah.
Session
totally.
3 of Graham's University of Life. We've been through today's agenda. What's his name quickly before you go? Louis Tice. That's the one. I listened to Louis Tice's...
Louis Tice, along with his wife, were the founders of the Pacific Institute. Like nearly all the USA self-help organizations, it's become rather commercial over the years. In the early days, it had quite a charitable function. However, when I knew him over 30 years ago, he was very well-meaning, and he gave me some cassette tapes, which is what they were in those days, which contained a lot of wisdom. I've used those same tapes with my own children as they were growing up. I don't buy in totally on his idea of what's called affirmations, because they do influence your self-talk very, very constructively to instruct your subconscious, but the whole thing can get rather lost in what's called intentionality. Don't be put off at watching some of the Pacific Institute stuff. The process we're using here is first and foremost practical and aligned by you to your purpose. And so the essential point is, whatever you watch on a step-by-step process, please do practice what it is you are learning. If possible, video yourself before and after so that you can monitor your own progress. When we're running training courses, we often do this in groups of 6, and people score other people in the team as they undertake their practice. And they score them out of 6 for content and 6 for style, rather like Olympic sporting events, whether it's diving or some of those other activities where style and content are both equally important. Show jumping's another example. A degree of difficulty and execution. Your behaviour in business is a bit like a decathlon Olympic event where you have to undertake many activities in parallel with each other, and the audience or your customers or your managers will effectively give you a score at the end of it. Of course, they won't tell you a score as such, but they will form an opinion of you, and that can be constructive or not quite so positive as you would want it to be. An interview can be thought of as you trying to get on to a particular Olympic team. They will be trying to find out what your potential is in each of the events they're interested in. They will effectively be giving you style and difficulty points. Are you good at lots of different events, or are you just good at one specific thing? You may be a brilliant physicist or something like that, but you won't have much potential in other areas, and that may or may not be important. You would be what's called in business a one-trick pony. And one-trick ponies are useful. They can be trained up to be what's called subject matter experts. And in technology, especially in this current time, people who want to be software engineers are basically one-trick ponies. They don't make very good managers, but they can be vital to an organization. And of course, they can be extremely well paid.
High performance people tape from 100 years ago, and there's a lot of good stuff in there about how you view yourself in terms of self-esteem and your personal identity, how you feel about what identifies yourself as you. I'm going to talk to Graham about what he thinks is good and bad about certain things to do with that. And in terms of progress, I do feel like I'm thinking about it more than I was. I'm watching what I'm saying, but I don't think I know enough about it yet, or have done it for long enough to actually use it as well as I'd like to be able to in the future. I hope people watching this, I hope when I watch this back, I can see my progress, even though it's probably way too soon to see anything change. But hopefully in about a month or so, I'll be able to watch it back and say I was a lot less confident before I'd started this, and now I'm feeling a lot better about it. Graham's making me confess because I turned off the camera because I didn't want to sit in silence with myself and no one else and just a camera for 3 minutes. So now I'm going to leave it on and we can sit in silence as I have nothing else to say. Hello, Graham. Oh, great timing.
Carry on if you want
Wonderful. No, it's all right. I'm all done.
You're ready. Okay.
Let me put my phone off to the other side of the table.
Okay.
You're right. Of course, I was outside the door listening for how much Corben was projecting his personality and talking to you as a fellow student. It's important when talking to camera to use your imagination. I thought his energy level and personal engagement was much better, and a sense of fun was creeping in there, I think, just a bit. In step 17, I'm going to give Corben some feedback on his last attempt at talking to camera, and then we can see how he absorbs that feedback and has another go.